Happy Sunday, Heat fans. Welcome to the Heat Report by Chat Sports. I am Nic Rohloff. On today's show, we're going to talk about the latest around the Miami Heat after DeMar DeRozan signed with the Sacramento Kings late last night, and some updated NBA free agent targets that the Heat could go after, as they do have one roster spot available, assuming that they're going to waive Orlando Robinson and not guarantee that $2.1 million contract, which is basically a formality at this point. Before we get into the free agent targets, though, let me know, name a free agent you want the Heat to go sign. Drop a name for me down in the comment section. But let's start talking about it, because DeRozan obviously signed a 3-year, $76 million deal with the Sacramento Kings last night. And I'm not too moved by it, to be honest. I know Heat fans were intrigued with DeRozan. We talked about it on the channel quite a bit this past 3 or 4 days. But I will go back to the point I made, is like, it was growing on me, the idea of doing it. But honestly, I could do some self-reflection here and say, I think I grew on the idea of adding DeMar DeRozan specifically just because I wanted the Heat to make a move and I was sick and tired of nothing happening. That is honestly the God's honest truth, because if you go back to before the trade deadline, you go back before he even was an option for Miami, and people ask me, would you want DeMar DeRozan on the Heat? I always said no, because I don't think the fit between him, Bam, and Jimmy would have been effective. Now, DeRozan would have been the best scorer on the team, yes, but when you think about those 3 players that we're talking about here, unless they all up their three-point volume and efficiency, I don't think it would have worked. I saw someone tweet it. I'm sorry if they're watching this video that I couldn't give them the right credit, but there was 58 players that averaged 19 points or more last year, and and if you go through all of them and rank the three-point volume in terms of like efficiency and stuff like that, Jimmy, Bam, and DeRozan would have all been in the 50s. So like that just simply I don't think would have worked for Miami. Like I just don't think it would have. So the Heat have to look elsewhere, whether it be via trade or signing a free agent. It seems in all likelihood that they're going to hold out in the next 2 to 3 weeks and see if a player shakes loose on the trade market, whether it be a Lauri Markkanen, maybe a Kyle Kuzma, Trae Young, but there's been buzz about there that Miami doesn't really want Trae Young. That might be a topic for a different video, but we're going to go through some targets that if they did decide to try to shore up this rotation right now, who they could go after. Number 1 is Haywood Highsmith. I think Highsmith is the number 1 guy, and it becomes more evident that the Heat might need Highsmith, which is crazy to say this out loud. But when you think of what this roster has after losing Caleb Martin in free agency, like this team doesn't have that many good wing defenders anymore. Like, who's the best wing defender on the team? 35-year-old Jimmy Butler? Like, that's a little bit of a concern if you're asking me, especially after you lost Caleb Martin to the Philadelphia 76ers. Like, and another issue is also point of attack defense. Like, your guards are not good defenders. Rozier, terrible. Hero, terrible. Josh Richardson, take a massive step back defensively last year. Like, this last roster spot, if you're asking me, should be more focused on defense than it should be offensively. You got your offensive free agent in Alec Burks, but unless Hero, Rozier, Duncan Robinson, or Josh Richardson become this really good above-average wing defender, which is very unlikely to happen, the Heat's defense is going to really struggle, and that means you're relying on Jimmy, Bam, and Hawkes to lead your defense. They are good defenders, but like, that is not a good recipe to success. So I think Highsmith, someone that the Heat have had contact with and would like to bring back, should probably be the number 1 priority, because he is maybe and probably is the best wing defender left on the market. He has a familiarity with the system, and you could offer him more than what you can offer non-Heat free agents. What do I mean by that? Well, the Heat can offer an exterior free agent at maximum the $5.2 million taxpayer mid-level exception. They could offer Highsmith about $6.2 million and stay underneath the second apron due to his bird rights. So if they can offer Highsmith 6.2, stay underneath the second apron, and they feel like, well, we're not going to get a big trade, might as well just add Highsmith back, I think that's the best course of action. It's unfortunate, but I think Highsmith is your number 1 priority. Make sure you are subscribed, by the way, because if the Heat do make a move or a rumor emerges or news drops, we will have a video. And we're also going to do a watch party on Wednesday against the Los Angeles Lakers for Summer League. We'll take a look at some of these Heat rookies and UDFAs, so make sure you are subscribed and join us for that. It's going to be a ton of fun. Dennis Smith Jr. is another name. He's been linked to Miami in the past. He's had interest in joining the Heat system, and I love Dennis Smith Jr. He would be your best guard defender from day one. There's no sugarcoating that. He is a better defender than anyone you have on your roster at that guard spot. The only issue is he's not a good three-point shooter, and he's not a good offensive player in general. Now, could you try to bank on the Heat system and staff to get the most out of him offensively? We've seen that happen with other people. So maybe that could be a case, but Dennis Smith Jr. would be your most athletic guy on the team, I would argue, as well, and best point of attack defender. So Dennis Smith Jr. is someone that I'm all in on adding. Another name that's intriguing to me is Sadeque Bay, the forward from the Atlanta Hawks, who isn't the best, he's not the best 3-and-D guy, but he does have some good traits and tendencies, and I think if you get him in this Heat system, you can really bring the most out of him defensively. He's arguably the most offensively gifted player left in free agency, if we're going to be honest, in pure scoring the basketball. Gary Trent Jr. is up there too, but he's not really a target for Miami. Sadeque Bay, a wing, could be your 7th, 8th man off the bench. Now, I'm not sure if he would be willing to take that $5.2 million taxpayer mid-level, but he is coming off a torn ACL, and that could be an intriguing thing where he takes 1 year for $5.2 million for Miami, tries to rehab his stock, and then goes back into free agency next year. This is someone who was phenomenal coming out of Villanova in Detroit and then was traded for the Hawks, and he's averaged almost 10 points per game every single year of his career. He would help the Heat offensively in a big way coming off the bench, and he would be someone that I would be willing to trust defensively. I don't think Sadeque Bay would take $5.2 million in that taxpayer mid-level, but if he would, I think I would be willing to sign him right now. Marcus Morris is another name that's interesting because he's been linked to Miami over the past week. There's a couple of different rumors and reports that the Heat have had interest in Marcus Morris. This is not Markieff Morris. This is the better Morris twin. I will say this, he's kind of cooked, but during the regular season, he can give you some scoring off the bench in some times where if you're missing some key players, which Miami is known to have that happen quite a bit. So he'd be someone that probably doesn't play often, would be your 8th, 9th man, maybe even 10th man on your bench. But if you need him to, he's a pro's pro and could give you 10 to 15 in a specific game, but not likely to make an impact in the postseason if Miami were make it there. Another name is Lonnie Walker, the guard who went to the University of Miami. He is someone that I have wanted on the Heat for quite a while. The issue with Lonnie and his fit with the Heat is the fact that he is almost similar to every other guard you have, where he doesn't play that ton of defense and is just an offensive, flamethrower who needs some volume shooting. And to me, this doesn't make sense considering you already have Duncan, Rozier, Hero, and Josh Richardson. If you were to move off of one of those 4 guys in a separate trade and you still have a roster spot available, then I would bring Lonnie Walker in. But I got to be honest, I don't think Walker would be a good fit in Miami with their current roster construction. They need a guard or forward who can defend and really just play a good off-ball role, and I don't know if Lonnie fits that perfectly. Maybe Jay Crowder can, the former Miami Heat player. This is someone that you'd likely get on the vet min, so you wouldn't even have to offer him the 5.2 taxpayer mid-level. This is a vet min signing for Crowder, and is someone that I'm honestly growing on taking it back. Is he washed? Is he cooked? I wouldn't say that in a complete sense, but he has lost a step. But like I said off the top of the video with Haywood Highsmith, you need to get better defenders. And Jay Crowder, even in his old age, would be one of your better wing defenders. I'm not saying he's going to be a lockdown guy like he used to be, but he would at least be one of your better guys off the bench. So Crowder's someone who has familiarity with the system, I think would be a good fit back home, and he would only require the vet min. He was kind of out of favor in Milwaukee. Wonder if he's got 1 year left in him. Go all out. Heat were really good with him. He was a key contributor on that team that made the finals in the bubble. I think Jay Crowder is someone that I'd be willing to bring back. But let me know your thoughts. Would you bring Jay Crowder back to the 305, type Y for yes or type N for no? 2 more guys I want to talk about here, so I had 8 free agents on my list. Landry Shamet, who got waived by the Washington Wizards because he was getting paid $11 million this past season. I don't think Shamet is a good fit in Miami due to the fact that I mentioned earlier with Lonnie Walker. They need a more defensive guy with that last roster spot, in my opinion. Shamet doesn't really play that, but is a good shooter and really plays off-ball well. The only reason why I put Landry Shamet on my list of players I want to talk about today is because he has had a lot of interest from the Miami Heat in the past. He's always been something that the Heat have coveted. Pat Riley has been linked to him in trade talks for a very long time over the past 5 or 6 years, as he's been bounced around from Phoenix to Washington to Brooklyn, I believe, too. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But the only reason why I have Sham on this list is if the Heat really do like him and want to add him to this roster, I could see that happening. I just don't think he's the best fit for Miami because they need a more defensive guy. The last person we're going to talk about is someone that I am very intrigued with. I don't know if 5.2 mil would be able to bring him to the 305, but how about former number 1 overall pick Marquel Fultz, the guard from the Orlando Magic? I find it intriguing he's still out there, and I think I actually saw that the Magic, in order to get one of their moves done, whether it be Franz Wagner, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, they renounced their rights to Marquel Fultz, which means they could not go into like deep into the tax or use their bird rights. So he has no incentive to return to Orlando for more money. And if 5.2 mil can get it done, I think the Heat need to bring in Fultz. He has shown the ability to be a good defender, one of the better guard defenders in the league, and he's also improved his offensive game. Still can't really shoot the basketball from beyond the arc, but he's got a little crafty mid-range game. He can really get to that 15 feet at elbow and hit a jumper. He could also get to the rim and have a little floater action. I'm really bullish on the idea of bringing in Marquel Fultz, and I don't know if 5.2 mil would get it done. I mentioned that a couple times. It's probably unlikely, but if it could, I would bring Fultz in. He would be your best wing or guard defender. He can even guard some wings at times because he's very lengthy and he's very tall. He's athletic. I know he's had injury history in the past, but I'm just going to continue to say that he can get him into the system and bring more out of his offensive game from beyond the arc. This is someone who can really explode onto the scene on a 1-year deal for Miami. So Pat Riley, 1 for 5.2. I'm in. If you were to rank the free agents that I talked about today and ones that I'd want, I'd probably put Highsmith 1 to bring him back. I'd probably put Marquel Fultz 2, Sadeque Bay 3, Dennis Smith Jr. 4, Crowder 5, Marcus Morris 6, Lonnie 7, and then Landry 8. That's probably the order I would rank them in here. So let me know what your thoughts are on some of these free agents and if the Heat will end up making a move in free agency, whether it be in the trade market. Let me know what you think Miami ends up doing the rest of this offseason. We'll see you with another video tomorrow, so make sure you are subscribed. For Nic Rohloff at the Heat Report, peace out.